Good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us here at our broadcast at First Unitarian Church of Toledo. We miss seeing you all in person. We hope you are well and safe at home. Our only announcements today: be sure if you're interested in our Easter flower sale or our world's finest chocolates that you find out more by contacting us at the church office or dropping a link in the comments.
Our opening words today are "To Be a Unitarian Universalist" by Erica A. Hewitt. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free.
As we light the chalice today, we hear words by Martha Kirby Capo, "That which abides." Through the week, this chalice abides, cupped and silent. Softly, it gleams in a dimly lit room, complete unto itself. Today, we come together as a community of faith, joyful and free. Our individual energies combine to spark the flame of truth. May we each draw strength for the other, and like the chalice, may we be bathed in the fire of commitment to social justice, equity, and peace.
And now may we recite together our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our hymn today will unfortunately not be on the screen. Thank you for your patience with technology. It'll be in our gray hymnal, number 121. This is familiar to several of you. "We'll Build a Land," number 121. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace generations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where siblings and cousins, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where siblings and cousins, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We now come to the time for our story, presented as a video by Soroya King, our religious educator. Immediately after that, we'll have our anthem, a solo by our very own Bonnie Rowe.
Good morning. Our story today is an interesting version of The Good Samaritan, a well-known biblical story. It's being retold today and adapted for us by Christopher Buse. One day a merchant was traveling on a road when he was attacked by bandits. The bandits were so cruel that they beat the merchant, stole everything he had, and left him for dead, lying on the side of the road. The merchant was so badly hurt he couldn't move or speak at all, and he could barely see through his swollen black eyes. A long time passed, then down the road came a priest, a man of God. That priest looked good. He was wearing a fancy new robe, and he was nice and clean from a recent bath. When the merchant saw the priest coming, he became excited. Surely the priest will help me, he thought. But when the priest saw the man lying on the side of the road, he just kept on walking and passed him right by. After a time, the merchant saw another man coming down the road. This man was a temple helper, and he looked good. He was well groomed and had a nice new haircut. He wore beautiful, colorful robes and had a winning smile. Once again, the merchant became hopeful. Surely this man will help me, he thought. But when the temple helper saw the merchant lying on the side of the road, he just kept on walking and passed him right by. A very long time passed, and the merchant began to lose hope. I will die here on the side of the road, he thought. But then he saw another man walking down the road with a donkey. This man did not look too good. He was dirty, and his clothes had holes in them. He did not look like he had shaved or cut his hair in a long time. This man will not help me, thought the merchant. He is from Samaria, and Samaritans hate my people. But when the man saw the merchant lying on the side of the road, he stopped. He was moved with compassion. The Samaritan washed and bandaged the merchant's wounds. He put the merchant on the back of his donkey, carried him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, as the Samaritan prepared to leave, he gave the innkeeper money and said, "Please take care of this man When I return, I will pay you any more money that you may spend. From his window in the inn, the merchant could see the Samaritan walking off into the distance. He was too weak to call out or even speak his thanks. But ever since that time, the merchant had known deep in his heart that there is a big difference between looking good and being good. Ancient stories for modern times.
I now invite you into a time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. Almost exactly a year ago, Ohio was beginning to experience the reality of the global pandemic that would change life as we knew it dramatically. We're beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel, but we're still in a time of great unknowingness and inability to predict what's going to happen next. Our meditation prompt today is adapted from Faith in Small Actions by Tim Atkins. When I first learned about the chaos theory during the summer before my 8th grade year, I never expected it to have such a profound effect on my spiritual life. Meteorologist Edward Lorenz first discovered the chaos theory when he realized that one small, infinitesimally small change can lead to a dramatically different result. And he proved it with math. In a complex system, one small change can lead to a result that hadn't ever been imagined. The more complex the system, the more likely it is that a small change can have a drastic impact. Now, what system out there is more complex than life? If the chaos theory proves that in complex systems, small changes lead to dramatic results, then it follows that the chaos theory also proves that in life, a small change can also lead to a dramatic result. This is an incredibly empowering thought to me. Small changes in my personal life can lead to dramatic improvements years down the road. And the small changes I try to make through engaging in social justice work have the potential to change the entire world. So often I felt overwhelmed about social justice. How can I change the entire world? It's too hard, too complicated to change the world. I'm just one person. How often have you felt something similar? We have to have faith to take these small actions. We have to have faith that in the end, our small actions matter, that our small actions will lead to the result we want. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We can't predict what will happen when a small change has been entered into a complex system. The only thing we can predict is that we've changed the future in some way. Every single one of us can make a change today that will change the future in ways we can't possibly imagine today. What change will you make? Or if you prefer the wisdom of Gandalf to chaos theory, Gandalf said, some believe it is only great power that can hold evil in check, but that is not what I have found. I found it is the small, everyday deeds of ordinary folks that keep darkness at bay, small acts of kindness and love. May we all be reminded of our agency in changing the world. Let us all take small actions that will build off each other and change the world in beautiful and unexpected ways. Now let us enter into a moment of silence.
Spirit of life, come to me. Sing in my heart all the strength of compassion. Lord, rise in the sea, moving the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Rose, Holy Rose, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our readings today include words from Scripture, 1 John verses 7 to 12, as well as a quote by Karen Armstrong. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. From Karen Armstrong's 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life. Compassion is not an option. It is our key to survival.
I think it's time we put the passion back in compassion. As a daily practice, it is far from a wimpy word. It requires courage and humility, a willingness to try, fail, and keep on trying. Compassion is a word derived from Latin that means to suffer with. It is not pity. It is not mere sympathy. It is like empathy, but is a deep enough co-suffering that it motivates passion towards relieving the suffering of others. I recently watched a very relevant webinar in which Stephen Dinan, director of the Shift Network, interviewed Mirabai Starr, who has explored the divine feminine through feminine mystics. Both Stephen and Mirabai shared the need for a rebalancing of male and female energies, especially in this dark time of pandemic emergency. Now, we know that both male and feminine energy is present in all of us and not exclusive to gender identity. Yet our spiritual and political world has long been patriarchal. Our present chaotic crisis may accelerate the need to rebalancing these energies. Male energy tends to focus on doing, on solutions, renunciation, and purification, where female energy focuses on being, on passion, earthy desire, sensuality, and perhaps most importantly, creativity. Mirabai calls it the fiery face of the feminine. Perhaps we need that fiery, creative passion to meet and survive this unprecedented time of unknowingness. Perhaps using our feminine passion, we all can be co-creators of a new and more balanced normal. Because we forget, I would like to review a little how Greater Toledo became designated as a compassionate community. Scholar Karen Armstrong ignited the movement of compassion during the acceptance of her TED Prize. She was awarded $100,000, the right to make a 20-minute speech to an audience of leaders from technology, entertainment, and design, strange bedfellows, and the right to make a wish for the world. As a scholar of world religions and secular philosophy, with over 20 books to her credit, she made the claim that compassion lies at the heart of all religions and of secular humanist philosophies. In her TED Talk, she asked the world to help her create the Charter for Compassion, a document based on the Golden Rule, that we should treat others as we would want to be treated. In fall 2008, the first draft of the charter was written by the world via a multilingual website that allowed all to comment. In February 2009, the words were given to the Council of Conscience, a gathering of religious leaders and thinkers who crafted the final document based on global input. As communications chair of the North American Interfaith Network, I was one of many communicators privileged to launch the charter on the internet in November 2009. The North American Interfaith Network and the Multi-Faith Council of Northwest Ohio became event partners of the charter. John Raymer of Seattle launched the concept of compassionate cities, and the Multi-Faith Council started gathering partners to have Greater Toledo Compassionate Community officially designated the 39th Compassionate City and the very first Compassionate Region. In 2014, we had an official signing of the Charter of Compassion by then Mayor D. Michael Collins, City Council President Paula Hicks Hudson, and County Commissioner Tina Skeldon Wozniak. Reverend Tim was the reporter for the Blade. Louisville made the bold announcement that they were the most compassionate city. John Raymer took that as a challenge and said, prove it, by launching the Compassion Games, where cities co-opete to document the number of volunteers, volunteer hours, money collected, and people served during a window of time between September 11th and September 21st. We started playing the games in 2014, and for many years, we have been tops in the world for at least the number of volunteers and volunteer hours. I would like Greater Toledo to be known for that. Have signs at the city entrances that say that we are a compassionate community and that we are tops in the world. It represents the social capital that makes us a good community for people to live, work, and raise families. But government officials change. It is hard to find politicians that get excited about compassion. When I mention compassion with the passion that I feel, I am often met early in the conversation with a glazing over of the eyes. The charter calls upon us to dethrone ourselves from the center of our world and put another there, and to honor the inviolable sanctity of every single human being, treating everybody without exception with absolute justice, equity, and respect. These sound like Unitarian principles to me. It is a call to all people, both religious and secular, to restore compassion to the center of morality and religion. But I think it's a special appeal to the silent majority of people of faith to reclaim the true meaning of our religions from those extremists who misuse religious texts as an excuse for behavior that would horrify our prophets and teachers. In her wonderful book, 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life, Karen describes human development as starting with a 4F brain: feeding, fighting, fleeing, and procreating. People then band into tribes and groups where cooperation becomes necessary for survival. The brain then develops into a higher rational thinking one, which nonetheless creates a violent struggle for power. Out of this chaotic violence have always arisen the saints, the sages, those who were revolted by violence and called towards a spiritual solution. She says, it's hard to imagine a time when the compassionate voice of religion has been so sorely needed. Our world is dangerously polarized. There is a worrying imbalance of power and wealth, and as a result, a growing rage, malaise, alienation, and humiliation that have erupted in terrorist atrocities that endanger us all. She continues, we have a choice. Emphasize aspects of religion and secular traditions that speak of hatred, exclusion, suspicion, or work for those that stress interdependence and equality for all. We live in a society dominated by talking and often uninformed speech. Karen urges us to educate ourselves about the other and learn to listen. But many people today would rather be right than compassionate. These words were offered in 2008, and now we find ourselves in an even more chaotic and polarized world. Could the chaos and violence in our current historical moment be calling for a renewed commitment to finding spiritual solutions? Will the current chaos give rise to new saints and sages? Karen would say that we, ordinary people, have the opportunity to become those small s saints and sages to champion compassionate solutions to our violent world. Do we have the passion to practice real compassion in our daily lives? Apply compassion as a strategy, a solution to our polarized world? Most of us would feel daunted to become even small s saints and sages. One person can make a difference, but together as a community, we can do so much more. Perhaps First Unitarian Church of Toledo can be an incubator of our passion to create change. This community of faith does engage in social justice and social service to our broader Greater Toledo compassionate community. Here are some of the ways that we support social justice, even during these extraordinary times of global pandemic. Leading Families Home, formerly Focus and Beach House, which helps families find permanent housing, has long been a program supported by the Social Justice Committee and this church. During the pandemic, housing has become an even more critical issue. Our committee budgets an annual financial contribution and contributes materials for blanket making. In addition, the committee and church members support 2 Christmas giving trees, one with housing items for LFH families and another with gifts for needy children in Sylvania. Mary Souther is a contact person for Leading Families Home. Luann Bilstein and Chris Stockwell coordinated the Christmas trees with our church administrators' invaluable help. The Social Justice Committee is a major sponsor of the Multi-Faith Council of Northwest Ohio and Greater Toledo Compassionate Community. In spite of the need to move all our programs online, MFC continues to produce about 50 programs a year, including grant sponsorship of the MLK Unity event, MLK 40 Days of Service Compassion Games, and the September Compassion Games, monthly universal worship service in which our church takes part, dances of universal peace, multi-faith men's and women's group meetings, and frequent service projects at Salem Lutheran Church, St. Paul's Community Center, Food for Thought, and Lucas County Children's Services, annual banquets, annual education forums, and co-sponsor of events on immigration, Black Lives Matter, and other social justice issues. We have a team of faith leaders to organize solidarity response to incidents of violence against faith communities. Since last March, we have been a communications conduit at least weekly between faith leaders and Lucas County and Ohio for COVID data. We have a new Holy Toledo video project to produce virtual field trips to faith sites of the 5 major world religions to help meet an intermediate grade state of Ohio social studies standard. The videos may also be used in adult religious literacy education. Contact persons for MFC are myself as chair and Joe and Joyce Moran for the men's and women's groups. The committee sponsors Green Sanctuary, a certification program through the UUA, which involved completing 12 projects covering 4 different areas of church life. We received our certification in 2012, and in the spirit of this certification, we continue with environmental programming, recycling in the church building, styrofoam recycling, and zoo TerraCycle recycling for congregants. Another piece of Green Sanctuary is our Compassion Community Garden, which offers plots to church members to grow organic produce for themselves and for donating to Seagate Food Bank. Recently, we were also certified through the National Wildlife Foundation as a Sacred Grounds faith community, with a major project to create our rain garden, which supports pollinators with native plants and lessens runoff from our parking lot into the storm drain. And now we have solar panels, organized by Nick Conrad, project manager, with consultation from Randy Ellingson and John Christensen. Karen Porter has championed Green Sanctuary from the beginning and would welcome the suggestions and involvement of others. Carrie Baum organizes Guest at Your Table, which is an annual collection to support the many programs of the UUSC, Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, in the United States and around the world. Congregants contribute what they might spend to have an extra person at their table during the campaign. Details about this year's campaign will be in the UU FYI and in our Facebook group. The Social Justice Committee supervises and delivers what comes from our collection bins for Leading Families Home, household items and hygiene products, Feed Your Neighbor, canned and packaged food, Toledo Zoo TerraCycle recycling, and the Little Free Pantry with non-perishable food and hygiene products. Even while the church is closed, people may drop off non-perishable food items directly in the little pantry. Please make sure that they are not past the due date. TerraCycle items may be dropped off directly at the zoo, and if you have styrofoam for recycling, please contact Karen Porter for a drop-off time. Colette Cordova is our representative for UUJO, UU Justice Ohio, which focuses on social action at the state level. Activities include the Poor People's Campaign, Black Lives Matter, immigration issues, abortion rights, and the 2020 UU The Vote to promote voter registration and getting citizens out to vote. There is an opening for someone to sponsor the Citizens Climate Lobby, an international nonprofit working to pass the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Bill. Many members of the church that are not on the committee do various social justice activities. A few examples are the Knitwits, who make scarves and hats shared with Lucas County Children's Services and LFH. Our adopted school, Arlington Elementary, where Carol Kierlieber and other volunteers help a weekly recognition program, serve as library aides and as reading tutors. Prison ministry and prison reform, contact Joe Moran, and UU Face programs to raise community awareness of social justice issues. Contact Joe Moran and Luann Bilstein for those. Some of these programs have been impacted by the pandemic and will resume more completely when we can meet in person. As you have just heard, there are many opportunities available to become engaged. No one person can do it all, but each of us can choose one or more compassionate activities to make a difference. Our world, our community need us now more than ever to become passionate about compassion. Will you, our church members and friends, answer the call to put more passion in compassion? May each of us say yes. Amen.
Thank you so much, Judy. As we come to our time of offering, I'd like to share some words from our FYI, a stewardship wrap up. This is from Mike Davison and Chris Stockwell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The 2021-2022 stewardship campaign, Imagining New Possibilities, has officially concluded. And as co-chairs, we are super grateful for the wonderful support of our congregation and for the outstanding efforts of the many volunteers who helped the campaign. Calling each member of the congregation turned out to be a special bonus, especially during this challenging time of the pandemic. We got to know each other better. Many good ideas were suggested for our future. We are pleased to report that 87 pledges have been received, which is 2 more than last year, and of these, 15 were new pledging units. As of February 11th, our bookkeeper, Teresa, has received $191,000 and $31 extra. All things considered, this is a particularly good outcome, and we are so thankful for those who are able to pledge. A note: to vote at the annual meeting, you must send a pledge form to Teresa or contact her to make arrangements for your pledge. If you simply make an online donation or send a check to the church, she'll have no way of knowing if that donation is a pledge, and you won't be designated as a voting member. Please look for your 2021-22 pledge on your quarterly statement, and if you think you've pledged, contact Teresa for clarification. Remember, it's never too late to make a pledge, and every pledge, no matter the size, is welcome. We look forward to being together again in our church building as soon as it is safe to do so. In the meantime, know that all are valued and important in our congregation, and we will continue to imagine new possibilities together. Thanks to everyone who volunteers and organizes that for us. I'm posting a link in the YouTube description if you'd like to learn more about pledging, uutoledo.org/connection/donate. You can learn all about us there, or in our FYI. If you're not currently receiving our FYI, you can go to the link in the YouTube description and sign up. You can find out all of the wonderful things we're doing. Speaking of, this week, we'll have our regular music ministry meetings, BIPOC meetings, loads of ways to be involved that you can find out in that FYI. But our upcoming services, we'll have spiritual adventures next Sunday at 10 a.m. Megan's Mushrooms, speaker Megan Malarche. And then our sermon, David Strickler will speak on universal grace. That'll be at 11 o'clock next Sunday. Join us immediately after today's service for our coffee hour on Zoom. You'll find the meeting code and password in the descriptions. We hope to see you there. And now we come to our closing words. Closing Words for Hard Times by Maureen Killeran. This benediction was inspired by Choose to Bless the World by Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. With a snow-covered mountain, the background, a human arm reaches out and, on their bare fingers, lightly holds a curious bird. No matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected. Each day, act so you may be a little more whole.
Ascending the Flame today is adapted from Blessed is the Path by Eric Williams. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is your heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Truly blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. As we extinguish the chalice, may you carry the light into the world, and may you go forth in peace.